Okay, this is a tutorial on how to set up a side-scroller. But first of all, I'm going to show you how to set up a class system inside of Visual Studio. You'll need Enfringe for this. I'm not going to tell you how to set that up. It's fairly easy to find on the internet. Good luck with that, and then come back to this video because it's good. So first of all, let's open up Visual Studio, click New, Project, Unreal Script, Unreal Engine Licensee Project. I'm going to name mine UDK Project. Make sure the path is correct. I've got mine pointing to the UDK installation I have on my desktop. Make sure you don't create a directory for the solution, otherwise it will mess up the directory structure of UDK. You don't really want that. So once that's done, it will create a solution and also a file inside of UDK, which we're going to go to now. You can close Visual Studio for the meanwhile. Go to Development, SRC, and basically find all of these, cut them, and then go and paste them into the directory above, just like that. Oh, excuse me. Okay, and now what we can do is we can go back into Visual Studio, and we can remove that because it can't find because we've moved it. We can open the solution back up again from where we've moved it to, and it now detects all of the files that we want to extend from, most notably UTGame. If you're going to be extending weapons, there's a load of classes and UTGame content which are useful to you. For example, shock rifle and rocket launcher. There's probably a few other ones, but yes, you can have different kinds of jump boots and different berserk and all sorts of kinds of things. But make sure when you extend, you always create the extension class in your new project folder, which is what we're going to create now, which is the project folder. So let's create a new project folder by add new folder, and we're going to call this SideScroller project. Awesome. Okay, now we need to add the various classes into this folder from UTGame, and then modify them to how we see fit, so they can work to our advantage and we can get a running side-scroller. So we can actually close this for the meanwhile, and we'll just do a load of copy and paste until we've got it set up, and then we'll come back. So let's go to Development, SRC, where our class is. We should have created one. Yeah, there it is, SideScroller project. But what we need to do is, actually we need to go in here and create a new folder called classes. As every other folder in this directory has a classes folder after the actual directory folder. So we have to keep it consistent so it builds correctly. Okay, so let's go to UTGame, classes, and go to find UTPawn, which is one class we'll be extending. Actually, we can just find it in here. Pawn. Well, that was very unhelpful. Okay, UTPawn. There it is. Okay, so copy. Actually, let's go back because we need to select more than one anyway. So we need UTPawn This will take a bit of time to find. Yeah, there it is, UT pawn, and we also need UT player controller, which will also help with our SideScroller camera setup. Player controller is here somewhere. Ah, there it is. Okay, so control copy, and then yes, we need UT game as well, which is up here. Awesome. Okay, so let's copy all of these classes. Go back to our project folder, which is called SideScroller project. Go to classes and paste them all in. Okay, so let's change these. We'll change them to names that we're going to use. So we're going to call this, this is going to be our game info class, which will define and link together the pawn and the controller class we're going to customize, and also create our game type. So let's rename this SideScroller game info. We're going to name this SideScroller pawn, and we'll name this SideScroller controller. Brilliant. Okay. Now we can go back into Visual Studio and edit all of these, adding various functionalities which are important to having a side scroller. Okay, let's go back. Open up the project. Open up the folder we're using, which is SideScroller project. Open up classes, which is the folder we created. First of all, what we need to do is we need to pretty much gut the game info class. So everything after this symbol pretty much has to be deleted, apart from the default properties. And even then, the default properties, there's a lot of things we do not need in the default properties, even though if you're going to set them up later, for example the bot class, you're going to have to add these back in as your own classes, which you'll be extending. So we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need that, or pretty much any of this, or that, or that, or that. We only need the classes we're going to be changing. So the pawn class is what we need. We don't need the console player class, controller class, or whatever it's called. The HUD type we don't need. We only need these two, which is the player controller class, as you can see here, SideScroller controller, and the default pawn class, which is SideScroller pawn. So we need to rename these according to what we have in our classes folder. So we have SideScroller pawn, and SideScroller controller. SideScroller controller. It's also important to put the class's project folder name in front of all of these with a dot. So I'm not sure if I can just copy that name. No, I can't. I'll have to type it. Okay. So it is SideScroller project and a dot, and this basically defines the folder. so it can find our class. And we'll put this here as well. So now we have everything we need. We also don't need this, so we can get rid of that. There's a few more things we need to change. We need to change this up here to show what it is extending. Currently it is UT game extending K game, but we need to extend UT game because that's where we're defining our functionality from. So we need to rename this name the name of the actual class file, so SideScroller game info, which I can just literally, well, I can copy and paste SideScroller because I'm lazy and I don't want to write it a million times. Alright, game info. Awesome, and it's gone green, which means Visual Studio has recognized that it's linked up with the file name, which is a good thing. If it doesn't build correctly, it might be because you're missing this symbol. Make sure you do not delete this symbol, otherwise basically it won't work. Yeah. Alright, we should save this. Now this class is set up correctly. We will be coming back here shortly to change some things, but it's okay for the meanwhile. Now for the player controller class, so let's get rid of that and the start page and open up the player controller class. The player controller class we need to pretty much gut in the exact same fashion, so let's just get everything and delete it. Down. Alright. Here we go. And delete. So we basically just ended up with this line. We also need this, and we need to extend from UT player controller. So that needs to go there. And we need to replace it with the name of what the class is called, which is the file name. Side, hang on, I'm pretty sure I've got this, no I haven't. Right. Oh. Yeah, side scroller control. Okay, that's good. We'll be coming back here later to basically fill out this massive blank because it's not actually doing anything at the moment, it's just extending the right class, but we need to put functionality in here. We'll do that after we've changed the pawn. So we'll save this for the meanwhile and then go to the pawn. So we'll close that, go to the pawn and pretty much gut this entire thing as well, because all of this code and this functionality has already been defined in the class that we're deriving it from, that we're extending from, which is UT pawn. So we do not need to declare it again. Okay, and then we can change this side scroller pawn. I've spelled that wrong, I think. Oh no, hang on. Yes, there we go. You need to make sure you put that symbol in. Okay, and we can get rid of that, just for the sake of cleaning it up a bit. Okay, and save it. Awesome. We have all the classes that we need set up, ready to put our code in. Now we need to go and find that code. The easy way of doing it is, well, finding it on the internet, which is what we're going to do. You can write your own code if you know how to code, but that takes a lot of time, so let's find it on the internet. Now, there's various places you can go and look and get various different kinds of code from. Epic has actually supplied SideScroller code, which is ready to just drop and drag pretty much into your classes, so that's what I'm going to show you now. So what you need to type in is UDK camera, and we can go to technical guide, and then we click on this, and this gives you all of the different kinds of camera that we can essentially just plug into these classes. So you can have all sorts of things. It's great really, and you can have an all-in-one, which is really nice as well. But we're going to use the side-scrolling camera because, well, it's a side-scrolling camera tutorial. Okay, so this is their pawn class that they've defined. This is our pawn class with nothing in it. So what we're going to do is take everything that is in their pawn class, except where they've defined the extension from, because our class is not called UDN pawn. It is it's something different. And then we're basically copying this, and we're going to put this into the into our class. And now our UDN pawn, well, our side-scroller pawn has everything that it needs, for the moment anyway. And we'll save that, we'll close it, and we'll go to the side-scroller controller, and we'll also add in the code for the side-scroller controller, as they've also given code for that, as the Epic guys are great. It's reducing the amount of work we have to do, but we can always come and edit this code later to better suit what we want, and more fit our purpose. So I basically copied all of this apart from the like what we're defining at the start, because we've already done that. And then I'm going to paste it in here, which is lovely, and save. And now technically we have almost got a working side scroller. We just need to set up the solution properties so this builds correctly. So let's go to properties, and then you'll come up with this menu here. I'll just blank everything out so we can start from the beginning. Apart from this, this is this just the package extensions that it reads, and like yeah. But what we need to do is we need to define the path, the base content path, and the game content path. The base content path is the engine content folder. So you go to engine and go to content, select folder, and that's that one. And that's in that folder on our desktop again. Game content path is the UDK game and that content folder. And then the UCC path I'm going to define as binaries, and it will be UDK lift. And that's that done. Build events, we don't need to change anything. Build, we can have that on, it doesn't really matter for what we're doing, so we'll just leave it off. We're not going to load UDK through Visual Studio, so we don't really need to do anything here. So we've pretty much set up everything we need to do with that. And the next thing we need to do is change the ini files so it recognizes this entire class structure, because at the moment UDK won't even see it. It's not declared in the ini files. So I'll show you how to do that now. We'll save it all before we go, and we'll close this. I'll put that on my other screen. We'll go into UDK, the UDK directory, and find our ini files, which is in UDK game, that is, and click on content. And what we need to do is we need to find default engine ini, and we need to add a line to Unreal ED editor engine. In fact, I already added it earlier when I was practicing this tutorial. This is always good to practice before we start. So the line that we're going to, I'll add it again just for reference. It is going to be, basically you copy this and you put that there, and you change the name for the name of the folder that we're going to use, which is where is it? This one, SideScroller project. So we can actually just take that name and replace it and put it there. And awesome, now it will recognize that project. It's fairly simple, and that's all we really need to do in this particular one. If you want to, you can, there's various other things you can do in these ini files, like making the map load, forcing a particular map to load, or forcing a particular game info to load, or making Unreal front end like recognize your game info and map, and doing various things like that, or customizing controls. There's a lot of things you can do. Anyway, we'll close that and save it, and we'll close that, and then we'll open up Visual Studio again. Open this up. All of the classes are set up correctly, apart from one thing that I would like to add. Actually no, two things. One of them is in the SideScroller pawn class. Yes. Generally, well, I don't know. Basically, the way the camera finds its position in 3D space, a lot of it is done in this particular function, and you can sort of mess around with it. So the up axis, or the up and down axis in UDK, is the Z axis. So if I basically type, for example, out cam location, lock is short for location, or at least I think it is, and then Z, and then I copy that, and then I just equals. So basically what I'm saying at the moment is the out camera Z location is the same as the out camera Z location, but what I can do is I can just plus 200 onto it, which will just raise it up. So now it is 200 units, Unreal units, higher than what it was before. So if I wanted to change, for example, the offset distance, which is the Y, I could make it go out, or I could make it go in, or I could change the angle using the roll, yawn and pitch. It just really depends on what kind of camera you want. It's quite a lot of like various functionality, which is quite easy to just mess around with this particular area. Anyway, I'll make this 100 because 200 is a bit high, but you'll be able to see the effect. It'll be slightly higher than usual, instead of just looking directly at the player. It's not always best to have it as default. Anyway, I'll save that. There's one other thing I would like to add, and this is from another tutorial, which I would say is one of the most useful tutorials on SideScrollers. It's a text-based one from Vector Form Labs. So if I go to if I go on my web browser and type in SideScroller, and it should be here. Oh no, hang on, type in UDK. Ah yeah, here it is. It's the first one which comes up. It's probably one of the most useful tutorials as far as making a side scroller goes. It's very useful. There's an awful lot of things it teaches you. But in here, they've added a piece of code to the UDN script, which is quite helpful. Basically what it does is it constrains the player to a certain axis, and just helps with like making that sort of more side-scrollery control, instead of like the player being able to sort of walk towards the camera or away from the camera, even though the camera technically is locked in 3D space, so it wouldn't be towards, but yeah. It basically constrains the player on the y-axis, which is where the side-scroller level will be. It also turns off the double tap leap function, which is not what you always want in a side scroller, but you can leave it in there if you want. It's down to personal taste and what kind of game you want to create. We'll also take all of these default properties, which are kind of useful. They sort of make it slightly more side scrollery, because in a side scroller, if you were jumping, for example, you'd probably jump higher than you would in a first person shooter, so they've changed it around a bit. So I'm just going to literally take all of this, apart from the extension declaration at the top, and I'm going to put this into our pawn class. Here. Also take this and put this here, because we do not want two default properties, so we can just get rid of that. And then we have this functionality, which is really nice. We can also change where it's constraining the access to, or what access. We can constrain it to the Z axis, which would be kind of strange, or whatever. But yeah, right, let's save all of that and build. And hopefully it should work. Yes, we have succeeded. We have built a modification on the Unreal Engine. Be happy, even though... Oh no, I've missed something, as usual. Yeah, there's one thing that I've missed. On the code that I've written here, I need to put a one of these on the end of it, and then it will work better. Okay, then it will compile correctly. Okay. Yeah, now we can build it. Okay, cool. Now we have made a modification on the Unreal Engine. You now have a SideScroller. So when we load up, don't forget to save it, when we load up the editor, we'll have a working SideScroller and it should be good. Even though, wow, there's a lot of logs. Alright, we don't need these. Great. Okay. Let's close this and load up the editor. I'm going to do it through binaries. I made myself a custom shortcut. It's basically what it is a shortcut of UDK lift with editor put on the end of it. Ooh. With editor put on the end of it, and that will load the editor instead of just loading the game. So it looks like I didn't manage to build the scripts in there. It took ages, but anyway, it doesn't really matter because I can do it through this when I launched the game. So I'll just click on this, it'll say scripts are outdated, would you like to rebuild them? Yes. This will take a little bit of time, and then it should say all scripts have been built without any errors. Oh no, we have missed something. SideScroller pawn. Controller class, it's the tomato. So I haven't taken when I was copying it over from the vector form, this thing, I left this particular function in, which isn't referenced anywhere, so now it's complaining about it. So I'm just going to go back into Visual Studio and we can fix that. Okay. So go back into here, go into the controller, I think it's the controller. Go down here, no it's not the controller, it's the pawn. Awesome. Okay, and then we can basically just remove this line and it will fix it. Okay, and we can build it from here. Yes, and it hasn't produced any errors, so it was just that. Okay, now we can load up the game and we can create a level and see our work in its majestic beauty. Close that. Okay, awesome. We now have UDK open and we can build our level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new level and it'll be blank map. I'm going to add a player start, add actor, player start. I'm going to hit F4 and make sure it's on 500 on the y-axis because that's what we've constrained it to, and that will move it there. We'll get our red builder brush and we will make the snapping a bit higher so we can have a bit more control, so it will snap to the grid nicely, and then we can just sort of do a block out level for our side scroller quickly. Alright. Yeah, awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this face and then click on extrude with the geometry mode activated, and then what I can do is I can very quickly block out a side scroller. Basically every time I move this it will extrude, so I can just do all sorts of things with it and move it along. And I've basically made a very long platform, but now what I can do is I can take these areas and select them and then just move them up, and I can change the snapping mode slightly so I can have a bit more variation. And then what we can do with this builder brush is we can add CSG add, and we have a level. We need to add some lights, otherwise the player won't be able to see anything. We can do that through add actor, add light, and it's a point light, and we'll just scale this up and put that there, and then I can build the level. Doesn't matter that it's on high quality mode, just as long as we can see what we're doing, it'll be fine. Close that. Before we load the level, we need to make the world properties understand that it wants to load our game info. So we go to world properties, and under game type, which I already have open, make sure you select the default game type as the one that we created, which is called SideScroller Game Info, and the game type for Pi, which is short for Play in Editor, which is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be playing it in Editor, so we need to also make that game info, and then we can close that, and when we start it should work. Fingers crossed. We have an awesome side scroller game with a very basic level. As you can see, the player is constrained to one axis. The HUD is going a bit batshit, but that can be modified by extending the UT HUD class and basically doing the same thing we did here, and extending. I mean, there's all sorts of things you could do. You can add various guns, and it's up to your wildest imagination. Anyway, we have a side scroller, and it's the end of the tutorial, so have fun, people, making your games. Chill. Bye.